Hello, Com 110. Today we are going to be talking about relationships with friends. So I'll be using your relationships with friends as a guide for this, but let's talk about what we need to know in order to have great relationships with the people that we choose to keep around us, and what we can do to keep the people that we choose to be around us a little bit more, or get rid of the people that we call friends that maybe are not the best people in the world. So we'll be talking about relationships with friends. First off, the nature of friendship. Here's a statement. Friendship plays a crucial role in our lives. Do you think this is true? Do you think this is false? And if so, why? I'm going to give you a second to think. If you're watching this with friends or family, why don't you turn and talk to them? Do you think this is true? Do you think this is false? What do you think? True, false, why? All right, so to define friendship, let's look at that. And there is a video at the bottom of this slide under Friendship Defined, a new definition of friendship by Paesiano. I don't know how to say that name. Friendship is voluntary, so people have to choose to be friends with you. If you've ever tried to adopt a friend, even though they didn't want to be your friend, you kind of know what that would be like. You need to be friends with them, and they need to want to be friends with you. So those are how those two things work. You need to go back and forth. Friendship is often defined by shared interests. So usually you like the same stuff, they like the same stuff. It helps with some of that you can talk about some of the things that you really appreciate or that you like. And then it's also characterized by self-disclosure. You tell each other's secrets. You know each other's little soft underbelly things. They know you better than they know other people. And looking at friendship and understanding friendship in that way is also very, very important. It also is rooted in a sense of liking. You like them, they like you. For the most part, friendships is noticed and characterized by liking, because liking is a characteristic that is very much part of friendship and how friendship works. And so also, it can be volatile. Friendships don't always work out, don't always last forever. And that is really important to know, see, and understand, because friendships change over time. We're not going to stay friends with everybody all the time. Friends definitely move and evolve over time. And the fact that friends move and evolve over time is something that you need to be okay and comfortable with, because some friends are in your life for a very short period of time. Some of your friends are going to be in your life for a very long period of time. But why do your interests change? Do you evolve? Do you evolve together? Do you not evolve together? And do people have to, at some point in time, do you just grow apart, right? So it is volatile. Functions. Why do we have friends? So the first one is we need a sense of companionship. I'm sure right now you're noticing you need a sense of companionship in the world these days, especially because you're like self-isolated right now. And the fact that we're so self-isolated makes it really difficult. And we need to reach out with people. So we're calling people, we're texting people right now. And communal friendships are focused primarily on sharing time or sharing activities together. So what examples can you think of that are examples of communal friendships? For me, the communal friendships that I have that I think of right away are the friendships that I have with the folks that I play flag football with. We have that common interest in mind. Most of my flag football teammates, that's the time we see each other, the time when we interact with each other. It doesn't mean we don't talk about things beyond flag football. We'll talk about what's the new job you got, or congratulations, I heard you had a new baby, how your kid's doing. We'll talk about those things, but primarily it's flag football that brings us together first and foremost. And so we share that time and those activities together primarily. My best friends, we watch football together. I'm a big football guy. I like football a lot. And football will bring us together. But then also shared family activities will bring us together too. So again, maybe you had friends in class, and hopefully you're still keeping up with your friends in class, because I was hoping you would begin to make friends and then follow through on keeping some of those friends. So know that there's an area and space and canvas to email people and be like, how you doing? What's going on? How are things going with you? Or maybe you can use the discussion boards as an opportunity to talk to and stay connected with the friends that you are making in class. Second thing is friendships also can help us achieve practical goals. Another video here in the slides if you want to check that out, called Agentic Friendships. These are friendships that are primarily focused on achieving practical goals together. And so I have some agentic friendships with people that do mean a lot to me, but a lot of like what we do when we get together, it's about the work, right? We're trying to do healing racism work, or we're trying to put on a diversity camp. And for the first and foremost, like our friendship is about getting those things done. It's not that we don't have other friendships and their friendships don't change or evolve. I'll see those friends in different areas and spaces. But primarily the friendship's characterized by the goal of trying to keep together to get the goal accomplished together, right? So it's very practical. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean a communal friendship is worse than an agentic friendship. It's just a different form of friendship. And how does that friendship work? Friendships change a lot across your lifespan too, and understanding that is also very important as well. A friendship's role might change over time. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the friends that you had in high school might not always be the friends that you have throughout the rest of your life. The friends you have in college might not be the friends you have for the rest of your life. Friends change and evolve over time. And once you have a sense of what you're interested in and where you might find people with common interests, you can get a sense of like good friends or people to have in your life based on those things. So one thing that's really important to know, men out there, you need to try to keep friends once you get married or you're in a very serious or committed relationship. Because for whatever reason, men tend to self-isolate after they get married, and almost all the emotional baggage, the emotional weight is carried by their female partners in marriage friendships. Now, this is not just for heterosexual relationships. Even men in homosexual relationships will only kind of just be friends with each other, and they won't have friends outside of that thing. It's important to have friends outside of your relationship. You need people to talk with about your relationship that aren't in your relationship with you. Although I would say be careful about trying to be overly negative or overly positive. You want to be very realistic about your your relationships when you talk about those with friends. Otherwise, the friends can kind of gang up against this person, and that can be problematic too. But it used to be we would be involved in things outside of the house. So there would be like bowling leagues bowling leagues or like trivia nights, stuff like that. These things are really very important to do outside of your romantic relationships, because friends help give you a better sense of support, right? So say you got family here, you got friends here, you got romantic relationships. The more legs that you put underneath like something, the more support it has. If you only have 3 areas of support, it's not going to be very stable, very steady, right? You want as many different friends as possible. Good friends though, right? You want as many different like forms of family. If you do different relationships, maybe that's part of what you do too. But knowing the more from friend support that you have to help you as a person, the better you will serve the other relationships you have. Also, friendships are the most important relationships for older folks. That's why now you want to reach out to older folks that might be a little bit more isolated and just connect with them and see how they're doing, right? In nursing homes, like those like activities that they do to kind of keep folks together is very important. Later on in the semester, we're going to be watching a documentary called Happy, and we're going to see a story about a bunch of Japanese women who trade vegetables at the community center together. And part of the reason they live almost to be 100, every single one of these ladies, is because they're friends with each other. Like, the thing that determines how long you will live is the quality and how many awesome, excellent relationships you have. Doesn't matter how much you work out, doesn't matter what kind of food you eat, doesn't matter how much you drink, doesn't matter you smoke. Like, one of the thing that like tends to make a difference more so than all those things, not that those things are bad, is do you have good, positive friendships? Do you have relationships that keep you moving forward, evolving, growing, and becoming a better person? I consider you all friends because I think you help me be my best person too, and I appreciate and am grateful for that as well. All right, friendship, culture, and gender. Male and female same-sex relationships are actually much more similar than are different. Are you surprised by that? They're actually really pretty much the same. Men tend to talk about the same things as women do. Women tend to talk about the same things as men do. I think there was an old country song. They used to say, old women used to go hang out and talk about old men. Old men used to hang out and talk about old women. Like, it's just funny because we have friendships and we talk about the same things and struggles. We just do it differently. The topics are the same though. and understanding the topics are the same is something that's really important as well. And then friendship expectations also vary across cultures. Some cultures are very into making sure that you follow through with relationships, that you're there in relationships. Every non-American can tell you they do not understand what's going on with Americans when they say, like, let's go get lunch. And you're like, no, let's never get lunch. I never want to see you. I never want to hang out with you. I never want to be around you, really. But like, we should say what we really want and then also follow through on what we really want. Like, instead of saying, someone says, hey, we should get lunch sometime, you could be like, you know what, I'm really busy right now. And I'm not in a space where I can really add another person into what I'm hoping to do. Although I would say too, who has enough friends? Really? Like, are you so cool you can't juggle in another person? I think what you need to do is get better at setting expectations and boundaries for what you could do if you had a new friendship in your life. So for example, I have friends that I love and care about deeply, and I only see them once every 3 to 4 months. But it's okay because my expectations and boundaries are set and known by me as well as them. And so when they say, let's get lunch, I go, great. What does May look like? And then I follow through in May because the person's important to me, right? Some of the things that I think become problematic in relationships these days is people just ghost each other. I don't understand that. I think, in my estimation, again, because I don't know, and culture is different for me, and I have different friends, and I kind of do things differently. But I think if you don't want to be friends with somebody, you should just say, you know, I think we're kind of growing apart. I think our relationship's kind of changing a little bit. And the fact that it's changing isn't necessarily bad or good. It's just part of what is. And I find that we're spending less time together. Maybe we're moving into being less friends and more acquaintances. Acquaintances are kind of just people that know each other in a way, right? And getting a sense of who's close to you and who's further away from you gives you a sense of what the relationship is like and how the friendship manifests. So with that, while I'm talking, I'm going to attempt to draw a graph for you to show you kind of like what friendships look like. So in the center of the graph is going to be you. You're going to be characterized as the dot, right? Very, very, very close to around you are going to be like your best friends. The circle around that are going to be your friends. And then the circle around that are going to be your acquaintances. But this is a way of seeing who is what. So again, when we look at the dot here, oh man, I covered up some light. Oh, no, that's what that is. So if you look at dot here, this is you, right? These are your best friends. These are your good friends, and these are your acquaintances. So what happens is sometimes we don't have great language for a best friend is like moving to an acquaintance. And so being able to say, hey, you know, our friendship's changing, our relationship's changing, like that's like something that we need to know or recognize. Or sometimes an acquaintance you find more things in common with, or we grow together, so they move into the friend category, right? But some of these relationships are going to move based on situations, circumstances, the people that are around, what your values are, how your values change or evolve. Or sometimes like your friendships may not be as solid as you thought they were, right? You might have friends once they get a little bit of money, they stop hanging out with you as much because you can't afford to go to the same places as them. Seeing and understanding that is also very important too. But know that friendship expectations across culture change, and friendships across gender aren't really that different. They're much more similar than they are different. Friendship and technology. Boy, that is a timely topic, right? How do you keep touch with the people that aren't right there? Do you use tech? If you do use technology, face-to-face matters the most. That's why I made a YouTube video so you can see my bright, smiling, shiny face every single day. And hopefully you're getting some positivity out of this. You're still able to engage with the course content in a little bit. But the face-to-face works best. Not that I get to see your face. I miss your face. I did, I think, allow for the opportunity to upload media uploads in response to stuff, and I am happy to see your face. Or if you want to record little podcasts, you can respond to the discussion boards in that way too. But the more faces you see, the better the relationship is. We are wired to see faces. Faces mean a lot to us. So FaceTime is important. Google Hangouts is important. Zoom is important. I'm going to try to hold WebEx office hours once I get my stuff together a little bit more in the near future, and understand that face-to-face encounters are important, and face-to-face encounters are what we love and enjoy. Friends usually continue to recognize the superiority of in-person relationships versus online relationships. Do you think that's true? Do you think that's not true? What do you think? Talk to the people around you. So the friendship that matters the most is the one that you water. Like the ones that you care about, the ones that you tend to be the ones that matter the most to you, right? It makes sense when I talk about that, right? When I say whatever friendships you tend to, be it online or in person, it's the ones you water, it's the one that you take time to make sure that you're investing in, that tends to be the best relationships. The best relationships are the ones you take care of. So if you and your dog don't get along, it's because you don't invest in your dog very much, right? If you and your dog are best friends, it's because you invest in your dog a lot, right? So if you want to be better friends with somebody, care for and invest in that relationship so it can get better and evolve and grow over time. Types of friendships. So there's best friends, right? Super best friends. And I don't think you can only have one best friend. I know it says like best friends, but like I think you can have a couple different best friends in a couple different areas and in a couple different arenas. Like that's not necessarily set or done in one way. Part of the problem I think you all struggle with is setting boundaries with friends, letting people know really what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. Like, for example, if one of you were like, hey, Professor D, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? I'd have to say, you know what, I can't come to your house for dinner because I'm a professor and I give you grades right now. And that's not something that I can do given our relationship, right? However, you might get a hold of me after you finish school at Phoenix College and maybe I've made a huge difference or impact in your life. And you might go, Professor D, I would love you to come to my bachelor's graduation. Now, it'll be a lot more invested or interested in something like that. Although, no, I attend a lot of graduations. Like, graduations are really boring. I love you, and I may even go to your graduation, but those things get dull after a period of time. Although I think this is the life that I've signed up for, a life of endless graduations and graduation speeches. But I might be more willing to go to something like that. Or say you're a bachelor student and you want to get a hold of me because you're a communication major and you want to interview me or ask about something. Maybe we'll go get coffee or maybe we'll have lunch then because you're not my student. You see how that's different now because we're in a different space with who we are and how we interact. Friendship relationships are very similar. They change over time. They're in different spaces or places. We also might have cross-category friends. Cross-category friends are friends that we have in different areas and different spaces, right? We learned a little bit in the reading and the quiz about the work relationships that you have friends that are just friends that are friends at work. And it's funny because sometimes like you'll only keep a friend at work, but then sometimes you might invite your friend at work to the movies at some point in time. And then boom, all of a sudden that relationship starts to grow because you've widened out space for new opportunities with that thing. One of the things that becomes difficult with relationships is we get scared that we're not enough or that people won't love us. And so we don't reach out to people. And then we don't reach out to people. And then people don't reach out to us. And then we find ourselves in a space where we can't really have or do friendships well because of the fact that we're not creating any space for that place to grow. Whenever you have a plant and you want your plant to grow, you need to pot it in a bigger pot so it's got more space to be. Then you need to water that plant so it grows well. Man, I'm going off on the plant analogies this lecture, aren't I? Best friends typically usually are same sex. I think it's because there's an assumption of heteronormativity in that maybe you're not interested in dating them as much, and that's what allows the friendship to grow in the way that it does. They tend to have greater intimacy, greater self-disclosure, and then higher commitment than even close friends do. They usually provide much more unconditional support. That's what makes them best friends. Like you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning when your car breaks down and be like, hey, can you help me out, bud? And they're willing to because they're your best friend. You share a lot of different activities. You share a lot of different experiences. It's what makes the friendship as deep and rich as it is. Remember the onion? We're sharing more of the inner core of who we are and more breadth of the roundness of that onion and how it works when we connect to other people. The other thing that's really important about what best friends do for us is they provide identity support. They see you as a unique and special you, and they also validate you. Remember when we were doing stereotypes, I talked about how when we see a you and we recognize a difference in a you and we validate that part of you, that's where like a lot of like love and appreciation comes from. Because now, like, because we're scared of who we are on the inside, and then we kind of show a part of who we are, and then someone's like, what, that's a you, you're cool, like I like you, and you're like, oh really, okay, let's be a little bit more of a me, right? And you put more of you out there, the more of you that's out there to love, the more of the real you can be, and then the more that gives them the permission to be themselves, and it gives yourself be more whole you. So you can love more whole you in a way, right? So again, it provides a lot of identity support in best friends, and it also you also get validated in all your different social identities, your race, your age, your socioeconomic class, your body shape, your body size, right? All your friends are like, hey, I love you no matter what. Cross-category friendships are friendships that cross demographic lines. So it might be a heterosexual friend who's friends with a homosexual friend. It could be a guy that's a friend with a girl, right? It could be an upper class person friends with a lower class person. So again, these are friendships that tend to cross demographic norms. There's an awesome Harry Met Sally quip in there that I definitely recommend you watch in the slides if you're watching this video with the slides. Again, these friendships tend to define norms, so they might be cross-sex friendships, cross-orientation relationships. These might be intercultural friends or interethnic friends. Some of you were cross-cultural friends. Some of you were cross-ethnic friends. And that's great, because the more we're friends with people that are different than us, the more we find out about who we really are, as well as who they are. And we have a better sense of what the world really looks like, because we look at the world through our own lens over and over again all the time. But when we look at the world through somebody else's lens, all of a sudden our lens starts to expand, and we see things with greater perception, because we're now not looking just like this. We're looking a little bit wider, because we're able to see the world in a wider space or place, because we get a gained perspective in what our friend does for us. I feel like I'm looking at myself a lot in the video. All right, what do you need to do to maintain relationships? Well, first off, don't ghost people, like obviously. But I would say the more you ghost people, the more you're going to get ghosted, because you tend to be around more ghosting, right? The more you can be like just upfront and honest, hey, I'm not feeling great about this relationship. I feel like we have differing interests. I feel like this friendship's not serving me anymore. The more like open and honest we can be about these things, and say like, hey, you're still a special person to me, and I'm always going to value the friendship that we had. I think the more adult we can be about things, the cooler this would be. The more scared, the more like we run off or be scared or just try to stop talking to people altogether. Like, I think the worst people we are, again, this is just my personal opinion. I think the worst people we are because we're just willing to abandon people. And then also, we put more of it out there. And the more of that stuff that's out there, the worse it is for everybody. Oh my goodness, look, our teacher assistant came to say hello. Looky, it's my buddy, it's Tinky. The Tinky teacher assistant decided to check on us. He's on the bed over here now. He's going to be listening to the rest of the lecture. Just a little moment of life and levity. So again, friendships flourish when you consistently communicate in positive and affirming ways that maintain those relationships. You gotta water your plants, otherwise your plants won't grow. There's general principles and appropriate communication behavior that happen within friends and friendships. And so one of the biggest things we can do is just be there for people, right? So I remember I got divorced, and my best friend would play catch with me with the football, and we would just talk about like life and stuff like that. And he would make sure that I wasn't in a space where I was getting taken advantage of. My ex-partner wanted to keep one of my dogs, and like she was leaving me, and so I was like, yeah, no, you're not gonna get the dog, because I didn't really do anything like egregious. Like we were just growing apart, and I was still interested in working on the relationship, and she wasn't. And so my friend was like, dude, no, don't let her take that dog. You keep that dog. You know the dog's name? Remember her name? Yeah, she almost left. And my friend was like, dude, nuh-uh. Like, you keep that dog. Those two dogs deserve to stay together. You're not the one breaking up the relationship, so that relationship shouldn't get broken up either. They were there for me. It made such a difference for me in that time. And then also, we just need to be open to making time to talk to each other, to really like making ourselves be open and known and understood. But we always have to, see you later, baby. We always have to practice being open and honest, and then also protecting ourselves, especially as we're in a new fledgling growing relationship. Because relationship is one of those things that requires care and attention in order to do well. All right. Now let's talk about 3 issues that we are going to potentially deal with when we are dealing with friendships. First one is betrayal that happens in friendship. So in the friendship betrayal area, that's what our discussions board is going to be about. It's going to be talking about betrayal and what happens when there's a breach of trust in a relationship. There's also geographic distance. What do you do when you can't be right next to your friends? This is what we're dealing with now. This is why calling people, talking with people, FaceTiming with people, Google Hangouts with people, whatever we can to connect with people to have them see our smiling face and let them know that we still care is very, very, very important right now. And then lastly, what are we going to do when we're attracted to friends? It becomes problematic, doesn't it? We're going to talk about it. All right. Betrayal is the most commonly reported reason for ending a friendship. What are some examples of betrayal that you think you've heard of? Maybe you can comment, right? It could be my best friend dated my partner. Oh, that's tough, right? It could be my best friend told all my secrets to everybody to look cool. I did that to one of my friends once. I was making fun of one of my friends because I wanted to look cool to people. And like, thankfully my friend was strong enough to be like, dude, like I'm your best friend. You've known him since we were since 16. I think I was like 24 at the time. He's like, I'm your dude. Don't make fun of me to make yourself look cooler to somebody. And I was like, damn it, that's a rough betrayal. And I was like, you know what, you're absolutely right. And I appreciate that you are willing to tell me this about this betrayal because I made a mistake. And you're my deep friend, and the people I'm trying to impress are not as cool as you because I know you. You see how that betrayal worked? But then we also acknowledged the problem and did what I could do to make up for that issue, as well as not continue to do it in the future, right? Betrayal. It is a problem, man. But it doesn't just happen to us. We do it to other people. Our problem is we can think of it when it happens to us all the time. But we betray people too. If we can be more upfront in our acknowledgments of our betrayals with others, and as well as more forgiving to other people who betray us, we create a sense of openness and create a space of honesty where friendships can overcome some of these problems. Because I wish I could tell you the keys to being in a relationship where no one betrays you. I can't. I can just tell you what you can do to be a type of person that maybe gets betrayed less, as well as what you can do to betray others less. Because you need to be aware of the things you're doing, because sometimes people do that stuff back to you because you did it first. Right? Let's be open and honest with ourselves. Let's be real. Like, we betray people sometimes. We betray our trust. We gossip about our friends sometimes. That's not cool. Like, when that happens, we should acknowledge it. We should attempt to correct the behavior, and just be open and honest with those things. When somebody betrays you, you need to like be grown. Like, have a difficult conversation with them. Hey, this happened. This hurt my feelings. This really like made me feel a certain way because we've been friends since 8th grade, and you doing this thing is not cool, and I am not okay with that. But you see how like the talking about it helps. Now, I'm not going to say talking about it helps every betrayal. Sometimes certain friendships should just end. But again, I think there's this notion that like you're this toxic person in my life. Sometimes, if we're going to be honest, we're the toxic person. I think we are a reflection of the friendships we deserve because we act and be a certain way. Ooh, that's deep, isn't it? Like, if you wonder why you have the friendships you have, sometimes it's because you act and be a certain way, which means you're only deserving of people in your life that act and be a certain way. If you want to clean up your friendship life, like, you need to start right here inside with being a non-toxic person or a person that acknowledges their toxicity. You still get to see counseling. Remember, all those counseling resources are still available for you, even through the campus being closed. But you need to do that inner self-work to be open, to be honest, to be trustworthy, to be someone that waters their plants, who is open, is communicating positively with their friends, which is affirming the different parts of our identities, which keeps their secrets so they can actively engage in more self-disclosure with you. Hey, baby, it's okay, bud. So understanding that is very important, right? If you want to have better relationships, you need to cleanse yourself of your own toxicness, and then you will be in a space where you have less toxic people around you, because you are now worthy of being around those less toxic people. Geographic separation. This is something that we're dealing with social distancing, right? Use technologies like cell phones and emails. Don't just always text, try talking. Maybe you can send each other videos back and forth. Like, that's really a great way of like keeping our relationship salient. Remind each other how much you like each other. Say positive things to each other. God, I remember being in high school and like all my friends would just like talk shit to each other and be mean or rude to each other. And like those are terrible relationships. What if I was like, dude, I really love you and I like care about you and I appreciate that we're friends off the soccer field too. Like, how would that have changed things? Maybe they would have made fun of me, but then maybe I could have evolved beyond friends like that at a quicker rate. Recount shared experiences and events. Let's do that now. Remember that time where we were going to school and the coronavirus is happening and we had to move all of our stuff online and I had to make videos in like one of the rooms in my house and like you were trying to keep up on all these discussion boards and like people were going sick and there was no toilet paper and like good luck finding pasta and rice. God, that was crazy. Remember that? Like one of the things that my friends do is remember that time when blah, right? So we'll remind each other in a funny way of remember the time the horrible thing happened. Remember the time when you did this stupid thing. Remember the time I did this stupid thing. Like, good one to share first is remember the time I did this stupid thing and we stayed friends like throughout that thing. Like a great one, right? But then also show support during big life challenges. Don't sometimes we'll tear our friends down when they find somebody they really love, right? Don't do that. Be like, I'm so happy you found somebody. And maybe you haven't. That's okay. Just because they found someone doesn't mean like there's less people for you. Like when your friends are successful, we should be the first person there, cheering them on, having their back 100%, because their success is our success, right? Be there through big life changes. When they're divorced, when they get married, when they get the job of their dreams, when they lose their job. A lot of people have lost their jobs. I imagine that some people are going to lose some relationships with this due to stress and tension. How can you be there for your friends? And if you're there with your friends and you could be there for your friends through a hard time like this, the relationships are really going to thrive. All right. Last one, big one. Romance and friends. What do we do? Attraction, romance, and friends with benefit relationships. Oh man, we're gonna get real now. All right. So what do you do if you're attracted to your friend? Well, first off, I am always a fan of just being open and honest. Now, I get it's hard and it's easier for me to do because I'm 45 years old. I'm a grown-ass man now. This is a lot easier for me to say. But if you have a close relationship, I think you could be in a space where you can just admit you have this attraction. Now, they're not always going to be attracted back to you. And that just happens. And that's okay. And you're like, well, what should I do, Professor D? I'm attracted to this person. I think about them night and day. I'm like, well, first off, you need to mentally manage what you think about. You choose what you think about on a day-to-day basis all the time. If you find yourself thinking about how much you like this person over and over again, like, think of where you're focusing on. Think of where you're putting your time and attention on. Like if you keep longing, you're going to keep longing. If you were instead able to reframe this to, I appreciate that this friend is in my life. I appreciate the things that this friend is able to do for me. I appreciate the things I am able to do for my friend. And understand, like, you gotta have a lot of good positive friends in your life to be able to have a great romantic relationship. But our friends are not gonna always be the best place. or a reciprocated place. Actually, it is the best place. Like the best relationships start from friendship and then move into romantic relationships. But you got to have the courage to be like, hey, I like you, like you. Otherwise, we can never get there, right? Sometimes we can sometimes those things do blossom and create a sense of romantic involvement. And now like you're in a relationship, and that would be, I think, the best case scenario where you just move from friends directly into a romantic relationship where everybody knows exactly what they're getting into, and you don't have any like barriers or governors on the relationship. Now, lastly, friends with benefits. Friends with benefits relationships, in my estimation, are not the most healthy things in the world. Because you're with Mr. right now. You're with Mrs. right now. Now, they're not really right. You would know it if they were really right. Because you wouldn't have like these little protections around your relationship because you know it's right. Right? Like, they're just Mr. Right now. They're just Mr. Okay. They're just good enough, right? Like, they're good enough for you to get, like, some tension out. They're good enough for you to have a very controlled, safe relationship. The problem is, so remember when I talked about plants, right? So a friends with benefit relationship is a really tiny plant pot. It's going to be hard for that thing to grow because you're only there to have sex with each other. And it's really hard because like when you have sex with each other, your brain is hardwired to have all these like chemicals and hormones and all this stuff that makes you fall in love. And like if you think you're going to have sex and not fall in love, you're bananas. Like usually, I mean, what happens in most friends with benefits relationships? Somebody like catches feelings and then like it ruins the whole friendship. And it's funny because like if they were really what you would hope for, you'd go for option 2 and allow this relationship to be everything you would hope it was. But instead, you're like making it be option 3, just friends with benefits, which is just okay. It's just not everything you really hope for or everything you'd really dream to have, right? This is part of the problem, is you're in a relationship that is managed and it's only good enough. They're all right. It's how do you feel about your relationship with whatever? Yeah, it's okay. Don't be anybody's it's okay. And don't allow somebody to be your that's okay. And don't like they're okay to somebody else. Like have the strength to be single, to find the thing that you really hope to have. Now again, these are just my opinions and thoughts on things. Now, generally speaking, the research doesn't support the great friends with benefits relationships because they don't tend to last for all the reasons I told you before, is you think of them as less than you. And that's the problem. Like, you can't be in a relationship with someone less than. You need a peer. You need someone that's like equal to you, that's going to be able to pick you up on your down days, right? Like if you're with someone that you see as fundamentally less than you are going to be less than 2 whole people. And how are you ever going to get through the world with the challenges of the world, dragging somebody's ass through the world? Like, you can't do that. You have to find somebody worth being with. You have to find a hell yes. And you need to be somebody else's hell yes, not just they are right or they are okay. Like, this is so important. And I will post one of my podcasts on this topic and idea in addition to this in the Canvas class to help you navigate this idea of attraction and friends with benefits relationships. There are very widespread through college relationships. People really at first love the lack of commitment, but they love the fact that their sexual needs are getting satisfied. But despite all the rules, most of them fail and end with heartache. And I don't want that to happen to you. You know, like, you got to learn how to love yourself first. And I mean, you got to learn how to love yourself in all the ways you need to learn how to love yourself first before someone can really love you back. And so with that, don't just treat somebody as a receptacle or an outlet for stuff. Be there for them. Really love them and really appreciate them. And then you can be in a space where you got a bigger pot and like something bigger and better can grow out of that thing. So with that, thank you for listening to my series on interpersonal relationships and friends. I know that Friends are very important. We need to make and have more friends. You can never really have too many friends, but you definitely need better boundaries. And you need to be better at communicating those boundaries so then you can have more of those friends. And those are the things that you kind of need to experience in the world. So with that, I'm going to see what I can do to save this audio, because I didn't really save it as audio. I just have video for this, and it did go kind of long. Remember, when this is posted on YouTube, if you go to the settings area, you can listen to me at 1.5 or 2 times speed. So you can listen to this once or more than once, and it's a good way to get through the topic or information. But maybe you open this in one window, and then you open the slides in another window and go through the slides and this with me, where you can hit pause on, like, hey, Professor Dave, I want to see this video, and then come back to me for better learning. So with that, thank you. Again, I'm really proud of you for doing your best. Keep out there doing your best, and day by day, step by step, we're going to get one step closer to really being there. Thank you so much. Peace and blessings.